I want to be clear about why I did these town halls. It was the opportunity to explain the level of sacrifice that I thought was necessary for us to balance the budget, but it was also equally an opportunity for me to hear what was on people's minds. That's the only way that my administration could be prepared to negotiate final budgets with members of the legislature, as we are required to do. We need to know what the legislators are hearing when they're shopping in a ShopRite or a Stop and Shop or going to church. I certainly needed to have that same experience, and I have to tell you that being a governor is somewhat like being in a bubble. So the only way to get outside that bubble was to take the show on the road, and we did that 17 times for over 20 hours of process. And I also want to say that I felt it was important to make it easier for people to become reconnected with their government, to actually have a governor who was going to go out and look them in the eye and tell them what he thought, and also have them look their governor in the eye and tell me what they thought. I also thought it was necessary ultimately, although I rely on all of you in this room to tell the truth and the unvarnished truth, having the opportunity to meet so many people in a personal way and have them hear what I had to say was very important on a face-to-face basis. I think, reflecting on the process, I noticed from time to time that people in opinion pages, as opposed to reporting, would suggest that I wasn't listening. I want you to know that nothing further could be further from the truth than the concept that I wasn't listening and wasn't hearing. And toward that end, today, what I am recommending the legislature do is to review the package I have previously sent them and to make some adjustment to it at the outset. And specifically, what I'm calling on and changing in my requested plan of the legislature is a $300 tax credit on property tax costs, which would apply to the vast majority of middle-income earners in our state. With that change, we change dramatically for those individuals the additional share of the obligation necessary to balance the budget without overburdening other individuals in any way, shape, or form. The institution of this $300 property tax credit, I think, is an important step towards finding a better balance on how to share the state's burdens of a $3.3 billion deficit. And that really is what we're doing today. We're putting in that $300. It will apply to the vast majority of the members of the middle class. It does not fully replace that which existed, nor does it cover everyone, but it covers the vast majority of the middle class citizens. And it allows us to remain within the basic framework of the package that I have previously forwarded to the legislature. This is not a radical change. It's not doesn't blow up in any way, shape, or form our package, and it does not require that we change the basic rates attached to the various brackets in the income tax as I've previously reported it. And with that, I'd be happy to take some questions.
So does this mean that the shared sacrifice for those below 50,000 individuals and 100,000 couples basically is just the changes in the sales tax?
Again, there are some reflective changes. I think we've given out some material. You have it, and it does lower the additional costs that would be associated to them, yes.
I mean, how does that work without changing the actual rate? How is it that it... it's just by moving the line on the brackets, you're saying?
And it canceling out in some senses, at higher ends of the income, removing the bracket. So having the higher rate apply to, say, the first $10,000 gets us a fair amount of money.
But under the existing law, these individuals up to that rate, up to about 50,000, currently are eligible for a $500.
Correct.
So it's still an increase in taxes for
Correct.
them.
But it's substantially less.
It's 200 instead of 500.
Correct.
And the funding for the restoring, the partial restoration of the property tax will come from the revenue raised by doing this as well?
By and large, it will. Obviously, yes. The answer is affirmative. Obviously, there's the appropriations process is not done, nor is the finance package done. We have forwarded this outline to the members of the finance committee as well as the appropriations committee.
Your administration.
Other things that you heard in these town meetings that you thought differently about, other than this property tax?
Yeah, sure. I thought about a lot of things. I mean, I don't know how to answer that. You know, 20 hours of hearing citizens of the state of Connecticut talk about issues is a good and humbling experience. So there are lots of things I thought about. But I think that this is a move that we can make that does not change the framework of the budget. It does not ask too much of anyone. And with respect to some members of our middle class, gives them a little more relief than the original plan I put out. There was a reason I was doing this process.
It does. Begging your pardon, Governor, it doesn't give them any relief. Your graphic
Did
is very...
Did anyone seem pleased or changed by after? Did you have any specific experiences with people that they were angry, upset over taxes, and then listening to you that they may have felt differently after that?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand that question. I apologize.
I'm sure that people who went to these meetings were upset over tax increases, correct?
Correct.
And were there any dialogues or conversations that you might have had with people that they may have seen things differently, or maybe not after hearing?
The question of this particular aspect was raised on a number of occasions during those discussions, sometimes by seniors, sometimes by others, and that particular message resonated pretty well with me.
In February, you had opined that the people that you spoke to who were supporting keeping this property tax credit in place were people who didn't receive it. So,
in some cases, that's true. I mean, I think there is an expectation. I think that's true. But obviously, the only people who are going to get the benefit of this $300 applying to the chart that we've given you are the people who actually are, in a position to use the credit. You have to pay a property tax to get it.
Right.
Take
so I
advantage
mean,
of the credit.
were there enough people that you spoke to that do fall into that category?
Sure. No. Obviously, this comes at some expense, and it certainly is going to apply to a broad cross section of people within the limits that are outlined here.
How does giving someone a $200 tax increase as opposed to a $500 tax increase give them relief? It's only relief from your plan. It's not relief from anything except your plan.
Well, how would you like me to answer that?
Well, no, I think that's
what I am recommending. No, wait a minute. With all due respect, let me say this. That what it is saying quite clearly is that I believe that there should be a minor shift in the obligation from the original plan. That's all. And I think I get your point, and I think you get mine.
Governor, your administration previously had acknowledged that there was a disparate impact because of your proposed change to the manufacturing tax exemption. It's like 3 or 4 communities that would get hit, $1 million, $2 million. Are you still open to doing something about that?
I think that will ultimately be addressed to a degree in the process. I'm confident of that quite clearly. But what I will also tell you is that I think it is very important that we ultimately do away with taxing the implements of manufacturing. So what I would say to you is I think it needs, and I've said this at the town hall meetings, I admit it, but I think that we need to back away from taxing the implements of manufacturing less rapidly than I had initially proposed, and I believe that will be represented in the budget, the final budget that comes out.
Governor, after 20 of these meetings, the only change that you propose to make to the budget package is this.
This is the change.
Out of everything you heard, that's the only change you're going to propose.
This is the change that I am proposing the legislature consider as it goes into its deliberations, and specifically the finance committee.
Why only this one change? Certainly, people raised a whole bunch of other issues. I'm just curious. You're making one change.
Well, this is a pretty significant one.
Well,
does this preclude some of the changes that members of your party want to pursue? I mean, some of them have expressed interest in not pursuing the luxury tax that you proposed So can you talk, are you still open to additional changes going down the road?
Well, first of all, there's a legislative process underway. And this is the one that I wanted to be, this is the issue that I wanted to be heard on as a result of doing those town hall meetings. That's what I'm doing. And I'm trying to do that. This is the one. I'm fully aware that there's a legislative process underway.
But they say that they are in close communication with you, and that they're not going to surprise you with any of their proposals. So are you willing to endorse some of the other changes to your tax package that are on the table, that the Democrats are putting on the table?
This is the one I'm endorsing. I mean, I walked across here. I worked on this over a period of weeks. Came to the conclusion that this was the right balance, and this is the one that I'm announcing at this time. Having said that, I want to reflect that I fully understand that there's a legislative process, and that undoubtedly the budget, as I have originally submitted it, will not be the budget that gets reported out by the legislature. That's a process. On top of that process, I wanted to say to you and to the people of Connecticut through you that this is an important change, which I'm throwing my efforts behind.
Did you consider making additional spending cuts to ease the property tax burden further?
Again, that's a process, and I believe the framework is the right framework. That I've previously outlined, so that $1.8 billion in spending reductions from the November 15th budget is the appropriate amount, and $1.5 billion is the appropriate amount in the revenue side.
Governor, can you talk about the status of the union negotiations? I mean, when is push going to come to shove here?
Listen, I think this is a process that's been engaged in over a long period of time. Listen, lots of people from unions came to the town hall meetings. I've certainly spoken to folks about what would transpire if we don't get to the point. I think everybody knows what everybody's position is, and it's a process that will continue to play out for some number of days. It can't play out on an unlimited basis, nor will it.
Well, there's going to be committee budgets starting next week, and there are going to be big holes in them. How much longer can you go on without some kind of denouement with the unions?
I think we're going to continue to talk to them. I think I've done so far the things necessary to be in a position to go in a different direction if those talks don't lead to success. I've made it very clear that we've capped the tax side. I've made it very clear that the only other way to deal with an inability to get a negotiated settlement would be large-scale layoffs as well as other programmatic reductions.
Governor, we're hearing of late that the Republicans are a little upset that they're not included in your negotiating process. Are they in fact included, or are you phasing them out?
I have not said no to one thing that a member of the Republican leadership has actually asked me for. Period.
What have they asked you for?
Nothing.
Thank you. Governor, you said you're not.
I mean, listen. Fairness is fairness. I want to be open. I have a pretty open door policy. I'm not. I certainly have read some of their statements of late, and I want to be. I want to be as respectful of them as they have been of me.
You've indicated you're not movable on the framework, but I'm a little fuzzy on what the framework is. You're firm on not going above $1.5 billion
Correct.
In total taxes. What about the top income tax rate of 6.7%?
I'm pretty firm.
Pretty firm,
Pretty
but
firm.
there's some room there.
Not a lot. Not really.
No. But I was going to say there's room between Connecticut and where New York's going to end up. So are you saying there's no give at all?
Well, let me be very. I honestly, I think that should be our top rate. I think that should be our top rate. When New York takes its step, the New York state income tax will be, if I remember correctly, 6.85 or 6.75, 875. And I've always made it very clear that I think we need to stay under that.
The Better Choices Coalition put out a couple of studies yesterday, one showing Connecticut actually is competitive in the three-state area, and that when you factor in property taxes, even if Connecticut's top rate goes up a bit, you're still well positioned with New York. So how do you respond to that?
So are they advocating an increase in property taxes?
No, Governor, they're advocating an increase in the top end on the income
Exactly.
tax.
And what I'm saying is that I believe it's necessary that we remain having a competitive advantage. And I believe that is in the best interest of the state over a long-term basis as we look to rebuild our economy and reverse the direction of being one of only 2 states that's failed to create any net jobs for 22 years.
Governor, we're hearing from top Republicans sort of, I guess, a theory, a narrative, that somehow that when it comes down to passing this budget, that there aren't going to be enough Democratic votes to do it, and that you're going to need Republican votes to accomplish this. You're the first Democratic governor in 20 years to work with a Democratic legislature. Wouldn't that be a failure on your part, and this legislature's majority's part, if you have to reach across the aisle?
Listen, I hope there are things in this budget that everyone can support. I believe there are. Whether they'll support them is sometimes a political decision, not one that necessarily evinces whether they're in agreement with what I'm trying to do.
Do you anticipate that you won't be able to get Democratic votes to pass whatever budget you and the Democratic leadership might agree to?
I think this process is going to have a conclusion, and we're going to have a budget, and I know that we've had a better dialogue about what the budget should be about and what it should look like, and I know that we have a basic framework that the vast majority of people are supporting. So I think we're going to get there.
Do you reject the premise that you're going to need Republican votes to pass a budget?
I neither accept nor reject that premise. You've made the premise, and I'm going to leave it hanging on the table.
What kind of, I know that the $500 property tax raised $365 million in the first year of the budget, so how much does this new proposal cost?
What's that? It's about 100.
But you're going to cut it almost in half.
Okay.
But to pay for it, you're just jiggering up some of the upper ones a little bit, right?
Yeah, this is not a full reinstatement on any basis. This is a change that's designed to numerically represent the vast majority of middle income property taxpayers.
So is it a revenue neutral proposal then? I mean,
no, it's not. No, it's not revenue. You know what? And we'll get you the specific dollar estimate. Okay, unless Ben came in, did he?
No, he's outside.
All right. Well, if you can get it, we'll give it to you in a matter of moments.
Can I ask a very boring technical question?
I'd rather you didn't.
Just to be absolutely clear.
I'd rather you ask Ben Barnes.
Is Ben here?
He's outside.
It looks from your chart as if in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish, you are going to be raising taxes on the wealthiest residents.
That's what I explained, that with respect to bracket advantages, they largely go away.
Okay. And you don't have any concern that that's shifting a bit too
Not
much?
at this rate. No, that's one of the reasons that we found a way to come up with more income without and maintaining a competitive advantage over what the new lower rate will be in New York State.
Governor, why
By
is
changing those rates, by changing what you just said, is the 6.7 effectively even higher, or is it not? Based on what you just said, you said you're changing the various brackets. So is it essentially higher than 6.7 or no?
No.
you're reaching down lower with the higher rate, correct? All right. When you talk about the importance of Connecticut being competitive, why is the income tax rate more important in that sales pitch than the total tax picture mentioning property taxes and income tax?
And I'm trying to maintain, honestly, I'm not picking and choosing. I just wanted to point out that you had a group that was comparing two different numbers, but they're not advocating, they're only advocating relief on one side.
No, but their argument was you would still be competitive within the tri-state area because when you look at the total tax burden.
And that's what I'm also trying to maintain.
Governor, you said one of your top priorities would be job growth. In these first 100 days, considering that the unemployment rate is actually going up a little bit in the state, and there are some rumors about certain companies in your hometown maybe leaving to go back to New York City, are you satisfied with where things are in terms of that? Do you think you've done anything to stimulate jobs?
Yeah, I think we have. I think you know, I visited for inspection and touring 10 businesses in this state in the last 100 days. I've met with literally hundreds and hundreds of business leaders. Met with, represented by some of the larger state organizations and represented by chambers of commerce. I don't think I've turned down a chamber of commerce invitation that I could squeeze into the schedule. I've presented a budget which is getting a fair amount of support in the business community. They want transparency. They want to get this process done. I'm urging the legislature to wrap this thing up as quickly as we can. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I can't ignore what's going on in the country, but you know, I can also look at a company like United Technologies and specifically the Pratt & Whitney division and say, gee, we should all have 90 days like they've had over the last 90 days.
Where are the rumor that UPS will be?
You know, there are rumors about every company coming, going, and you know, there's constantly rumors about companies coming and going.
Governor, have you reconsidered any of the exemptions on the sales tax that apply to certain industries? You know, the finance committee members have said they're looking seriously at that because they believe that there would be a harmful impact on some of those industries.
And I think that's a fair question, and I think that's the stuff will get worked out on the committee level. Okay, thank you very much. Great to be with you. Oh, I'm sorry.
The Huskies parade, it looks like it's going to happen now.
It is going to happen.
Is it important, or how important is it to hold that parade, even in these economic?
Well, it's only important when you win. I think it's a nice opportunity for us to celebrate the victory of this team, and I'm looking forward to it. And if you could arrange for better weather, I'd appreciate it. Thank you all very much.